Hello friends, what's up? It's Jamie here. Welcome back to my channel. If you've been following me for long enough, then you know that I originally got my start on this channel by doing Minecraft Diaries theory videos and other assorted AFMA related content. But in recent years, with the discontinuation of Minecraft Diaries and my interest changing, I have shifted to making other kinds of content. But due to the announcement of my Street Season 7, and because I have never actually moved on from anything in my life, I am back to making Minecraft Diaries and my street content. Not full time, I'm still going to be making my usual content that has become the standard for this channel, but now with some Minecraft Diaries and my street content sprinkled in. And so, to kick off my return to making Minecraft Diaries content, today I will be presenting my very serious, completely unbiased case as to why Garmau was the superior Minecraft Diaries ship and why they would have ended up together had the series continued. If you're wondering what my credentials are for speaking on this topic, they are as follows. Like I mentioned before, I was originally known for making Minecraft Diaries theory videos, my most popular of which I slipped in a not so subtle declaration of my status as a die-hard Garmau shipper. I did the same in one of the Minecraft Diaries fanfics that I wrote back in the day. I had another Minecraft Diaries fanfic that was completely dedicated to the Garmau ship that I never finished, but that is neither here nor there. And I also used to have a Garmau shipping shrine in my room. No, I am not kidding. I used to argue in Instagram comments and captions back in the day that Garmau was the superior ship, so I feel well equipped to make this video. That and the fact that I spent literally like a month working on this video script. I had originally said that this video was going to come out in like mid-March when I first talked about it back in my January video, but I severely underestimated just how much time I was going to need to prepare and put together all of my notes and the script for this video. So please don't bring up the fact that this video is quite late to when I originally wanted it to go up. Please don't bring that up. Thank you. But so without further ado, let us finally get into the video. Following my first time rewatching Minecraft Diaries in over 7 years, I have been able to reevaluate the Garmau ship. Upon the completion of my rewatch, I have still come to the conclusion that Garmau is simply the best ship. But now I'm able to recognize that while overall Garmau is the best ship, there are times throughout the series where that wasn't always the case. Let me explain. You see, when I was a preteen fangirl at the height of my Minecraft Diaries obsession, the moment I started shipping Garmau, I simply believed that they immediately should have been together, that they should have been together at any given point of the series. But upon further reflection, I have now been able to break down the progression of Garth and Aphmau's relationship into 3 acts, and more importantly, come to the conclusion that Garth and Aphmau actually should not have been together during those first 2 acts. Which may seem to contradict the argument I'm trying to make here, but I'm here to make the argument that that only proves why Garmau is the superior ship. Luckily, the 3 acts of the Garth-Aphmau relationship correspond with the 3 seasons of the original Minecraft Diaries. No, I am not including the reboot for this video. This is solely about the original 3 seasons of Minecraft Diaries, and also excluding Origins for obvious reasons. Now, the first act of the Garth-Aphmau relationship rightly corresponds with the first season of Minecraft Diaries. This is the season where Aphmau and Garth meet. It's the season where Garth's feelings for Aphmau are initially established and revealed, and it is the season where Aphmau and Garth's relationship is first tested. Season 1 of Minecraft Diaries establishes that Aphmau and Garth make a great team as Lord and Guard. They work together to restore Phoenix Drop. Garth provides Aphmau with funds to secure seeds for crops to establish more of a food source and the farming. Aphmau fixes the roads and creates new buildings and structures for Garth and the other villagers. Throughout the season, it becomes a routine for Garth to greet Aphmau outside her house in the morning and brief her on the happenings in the village and whatever information he has learned about whatever is going on outside of the village that is relevant to Aphmau's objectives. Garth provides Aphmau with supplies when she leaves on journeys to other villages. Aphmau and Garth work together to raise Levin. Both immediately jump into parent mode. Shortly after Aphmau takes Levin in, Garth sets up defenses around her house to keep them both safe. He teaches Levin to call Aphmau Mama. He's supportive of Aphmau adopting Malachi, and Aphmau invites him to play with Levin and Malachi in the treehouse, which is one of my favorite Garmau season 1 moments, might I add. It's in this season that Garth's romantic feelings for Aphmau are established. From very early on, it's evident that Garth cares about Aphmau as more than just a guard caring about their lord. And while he isn't as upfront about his romantic feelings for her as Lawrence is, he still makes an effort to let Aphmau know how much she means to him. Garth tells Aphmau that he appreciates her and what she does for him and the village, like with building him the original guard station. He lets her know that her smile is comforting to him, that he loves that she has such a big heart, especially with taking in Levin, Malachi, and Yip. He even gets more confident with calling her beautiful as the season progresses. As a guard, it's only natural that Garth is concerned for Aphmau's safety and well-being as she is a lord, but I don't think that it is far-fetched to infer, and in fact, I think that it's implied that Garth's protectiveness of Aphmau also stems from his feelings for her. For example, he made increasing security for Aphmau and Levin a priority early in the season. Another example is when Garth came to Aphmau's aid at Malachi's castle because he was worried about her. He also came to her rescue when she was attacked by Okas's guards outside of Picaro village. Garth acknowledges that Aphmau can protect herself and is very capable of protecting herself, but he also lets her know that he will protect her no matter what. If you recall, he was very adamant about taking the new oath of the guard for Aphmau's sake, and because Garth is so concerned for Aphmau's safety, he's obviously very distraught when Xenix attacks and feels like he failed not only in protecting Phoenix Drop, but especially Aphmau. And when Zane threatens Aphmau's life, Garth is immediately like, if you touch my woman, I will kill you. Of course, there are also a lot of examples of Garth expressing his feelings for Aphmau in more indirect, subtle ways, or at least subtle to him, not really subtle to everyone else except for Aphmau herself. He gets very flustered at the prospect of revealing his feelings when Lawrence teases him in front of Aphmau. When Garth accompanies Aphmau to Kawaii-chan's house to check on her after she was summoning her little maids, he was also very flustered to be alone with Aphmau. He also has his feathers ruffled every time Lawrence openly flirts with Aphmau in front of him, which is all the time. He doesn't do a very good job with masking his jealousy. But of course, the most iconic of Garth's indirect, or really very direct, depending on how you want to look at it, means of expressing his feelings to Aphmau was when he left her the engagement ring in the chest of supplies when she went out to find Levin's mom. Oh my gosh, side note, I remember being so utterly gobsmacked when I first watched that. They really got me. My jaw, it was on the floor. As I mentioned before, this season also establishes Aphmau's initial feelings for Garth. While not as overtly romantic as Garth's, it's very clear that Aphmau cares deeply for him. She races against the clock to save his life after he's been shot and builds the original guard station to cheer him up after Xenic betrays the village. Aphmau reassures Garth that he hasn't failed her or the village after Xenic's attack, and yes, she lies about who the lord that Xenic killed was, but she does so to protect his feelings. But even after this attack, Aphmau's faith in Garth to protect the village is unshaken. She has full faith in Garth's ability to protect everyone. She also lets Garth know that he can always talk to her about Xenix or anything after this incident. But Aphmau is also very respectful of Garth's privacy in regards to his helmet, his past. She isn't upset when she learns about Garth's true identity. She's more concerned that, like, checking to see if Garth is okay. And more than anything, the reveal of Garth's identity and the events that follow only reveals just how protective Aphmau is of Garth. Aphmau refuses to let Zane take Garth away from her. She orders Zane to get out of her village for his sake. She could have been diplomatic at this moment when she first tells Zane to get the fuck out of the village, but it was clear that she was very upset on Garth's behalf. When Garth volunteers to give himself up to get Zane to back off, Aphmau is completely against this. And ultimately, Aphmau decides against breaking into the house that Zane has commandeered because she doesn't want to risk losing Garth. And she even goes as far as to pretend to be Garth's girlfriend to prevent Zane from taking him. Aphmau even volunteers to go with Garth to confront his father to find some way to get him out of the marriage pact. And I'd like to note that even with all of his jealousy, Garth was willing to bless Lawrence marrying Aphmau in order to protect her from Zane, even if that meant losing the woman that he loved. And that scene, on my rewatch, it got me. That scene always gets me. Aphmau is so relieved and excited when Zane has to return to Ocas's and is unable to take Garth away, but this isn't the only instance of Aphmau's protectiveness of Garth. She is also very protective of him when she thinks that Caitlin has come to take him away, and she is vehemently opposed to him rewriting the Oath of the Guard, which, yes, I can concede that it should be a no-brainer that Aphmau wouldn't want Garth to have to take his own life, but I still wanted to include this as an example of how much Aphmau cares about Garth. I can understand the argument that Aphmau's protective feelings of Garth are because he's her guard. I do think that that's valid. So I also want to provide some examples that illustrate Aphmau and Garth's lighthearted chemistry. One of my personal favorite moments is when they dance at Donna and Logan's wedding. This was one of the few moments where they really got to just let loose and have fun in early Minecraft Diaries. Zoe even comments after the fact on how much fun that they were having. While maybe not as much as Aphmau and Lawrence, Aphmau and Garth still have their moments of lighthearted banter this season. After Lawrence confesses to Aphmau, she teases Garth about Lawrence beating him to the punch of confessing. Garth joins in on teasing Lawrence with Aphmau when they make him think that his hair has been dyed blue by cadenza. Aphmau teases Garth about him being jealous that Lawrence is her fake fiance. I'd also like to make a note that of the love interests that are introduced in season 1, Garth is the only one that Aphmau initiates a hug with. She hugs him after she declines his offer to walk her home from Kawaii-chan's house, and I think that that was very cute. With all of these examples that I'm citing, the point isn't whether or not these were actions or sentiments that stemmed from romantic feelings that Aphmau had for Garth, because I genuinely don't think that that's where her feelings were at yet at this point in time, but these examples make it clear that Aphmau values Garth as more than just a guard, I would add. Something else that I mentioned before is that this season introduces the first conflicts that test Aphmau and Garth's relationship. The first and lesser of the conflicts, but still significant, is when Garth refuses to take off his helmet for Donna and Logan's wedding. This is Aphmau and Garth's first real argument. As a reminder, Aphmau initially defends Garth's right to wear what he wants, but ultimately, Zane forces her hand because she needs him to perform the ceremony. While this isn't the biggest conflict that Aphmau and Garth have this season, there's still some emotional weight to it. Aphmau tries to order Garth to go without his helm, and Garth threatens to leave the village. Though after the reveal of his identity, we know that this was only because Garth didn't want Zane to recognize him and immediately apologized for what he said. After this exchange, Aphmau and Garth are able to come to a resolution, which I feel demonstrates their mutual respect for each other. Aphmau is very sad that Garth won't attend the wedding, but she gives him the day off because she respects his boundaries. And on Garth's end, he puts his reservations aside and shows up to the wedding in the end. Even if that did end up being a bad mood in the long run because he revealed himself to Zane. As a side note, I had forgotten just how much of an absolute menace and terror Minecraft Diaries Zane was. Like, that man was truly the biggest op of the series, but also the Garmau ship, because between threatening Aphmau with marriage and manipulating Garth to betray her, he was really doing the most to prevent the Garmau ship. Like, truly, he was the biggest opponent, the biggest obstacle to that ship. Which, of course, brings us to the elephant in the room. The first elephant, anyway. There's 2 elephants. We'll get to the second one later. And of course, I'm sure you can guess that the elephant that I'm currently referring to is when Garth betrays Aphmau and joins Zane. Following the infamous scene where Garth sees the illusion of Aphmau and Lawrence kissing conjured up by Lillian, he is so heartbroken and feels so betrayed that it leads him to teaming up with his brother. Now, even as the Garth stan and Garmau lover that I am, I can confidently say that episodes 90 through 100 of season 1 were just L after L for Garth's character, which is so sad to me because there were so many sweet Garmau moments in the episodes leading up to episode 90, with Garth catching Aphmau when she falls from the tree house that leads to the cute little family moment that they have with Levin and Malachi. Aphmau complimenting Garth's armor and encouraging him to talk to Cadenza about his design skills. And then, of course, in episode 90 itself, Aphmau allows Garth to walk her to Kiki's baby shower because she knows that it will put his mind at ease. Rewatching that episode just opened up a pit in my stomach because I knew it was going to happen and I was just absolutely dreading it. It broke my heart, but it also made me really pissed at Garth. Listen, we know what this video is. Ultimately, I'm still going to be making the argument that Garth and Aphmau are the best ship, by the end of this video, trust and believe, but I'm not going to mince my words with episode 90 to 100 season 1 Garth just because I love him and the Garmau ship. Obviously, we already knew that Garth had a penchant for jealousy. We get many moments of him being jealous throughout season 1 of Minecraft Diaries, but the fact that Aphmau was so worried about him while he was sick, she left Kiki's baby shower to look for him and was really worried when she couldn't find him. The fact that Phoenix Drop was literally on the brink of war and their head guard was missing in action, the fact that Aphmau literally told him multiple times that she was worried about him and that she was very concerned because they were literally on the verge of war with Scaleswind. Oh my god, I was so mad. I was like, Garth, lock in! Lock in! Oh my god! I was like, we are at war, Garth. I'm like, you need to fucking chill. We are at war. Like, get it together. Yes, it's true that Garth was manipulated by Zane and Lillian. And besides that one scene we get, we don't know exactly what Lillian told Garth when he was sick, but Garth made the choice to ultimately betray Aphmau, to side with Zane, after everything that Zane had done to her and the village, to Alexis, after all of his talk about how he was always going to be there for her to protect her, and the village for that matter, and the fact that Aphmau didn't believe Lawrence when he told her that Garth took the amulet from him, the fact that she didn't believe Zane when he told her that Garth joined the jury of 9 and was serving him, the fact that Aphmau continued to give Garth the benefit of the doubt until she physically could not deny his betrayal was absolutely devastating. Obviously, Garth does redeem himself in the end when he protects Aphmau from Zane and sacrifices himself so that the others can escape the Irene dimension, culminating in the iconic scene where he finally tells Aphmau that he loves her. Though I felt that it was very important for me to acknowledge that the fact that Garth was willing to stoop so low and align himself with Zane because of the possibility that Aphmau didn't return his feelings and was in a relationship with Lawrence was objectively very shitty. Because even if Aphmau and Lawrence had actually been together, Garth's betrayal still would not have been justified, especially because Garth's betrayal inadvertently led Aphmau and the others to being launched 15 years into the future, which led Aphmau to missing out on her son's childhoods. Obviously, Garth did not know that this was going to happen when he decided to side with Zane and going into the Irene dimension and all that, but this was still the result of his actions, even if he didn't mean for that to happen. As an adult rewatching the series, I can finally recognize what I did not want to recognize back then, was that Aphmau and Garth were not ready to be together. No matter how much I wanted them to be together, especially they were not ready to be together in season 1. They had not grown enough as people, mostly Garth, but also Aphmau, but mostly Garth. This brings us to Act 2 of the Garth-Aphmau relationship, appropriately corresponding with Season 2 of Minecraft Diaries. Season 2 of Minecraft Diaries is a game changer for Aphmau and Garth's relationship. Garth undergoes a lot of character development this season. Aphmau's feelings for Garth change substantially, and their overall dynamic is forever changed after this season. In this season, we see Garth become bolder and more honest with how he expresses his feelings for Aphmau. Since they don't know how much time they have when Aphmau sees him in the dream dimension, Garth is essentially like, fuck it, I've got nothing left to lose. I could literally die at any moment, so if I'm going out like this, I want to know that I have made my feelings loud and clear. Garth kisses Aphmau in that very, very iconic scene, if I do say so myself. After the kiss, he reaffirms that he meant his confession in the season 1 finale. He flirts more openly with her. He lets her know how he feels when she tells him about Lawrence and her complicated feelings. He's still the same Garth at his core, but you can tell that we're seeing a Garth who isn't getting in his own way, one who is more confident. Garth laments the fact that he treated his and Aphmau's relationship as strictly Lord and Guard up until this point and didn't take the time to get to know her as a person and create many fond memories with just the two of them. And we really get to see him take that to heart during their season 2 scenes. It's clear that despite time not actually moving when Aphmau and Garth are in the dream dimension together, Garth is doing a lot of self-reflection. He's able to recognize that it was very selfish of him to close himself off instead of letting the people who cared about him help him when he was struggling. While he obviously doesn't love that Aphmau has developed feelings for Lawrence, he comforts her and tells Aphmau that she should be with someone who deserves her. In this season, it's obvious that Aphmau's feelings for Garth have evolved. In season 1, it's clear that Aphmau valued Garth as her guard and as a close friend, but I think it's safe to say that she didn't develop romantic feelings for him until this season. Throughout the season, Aphmau expresses that she feels like her heart is being pulled in two directions between Garth and Lawrence. She consistently laments over how much she misses Garth and becomes increasingly panicked the longer she goes without being able to see him and feels like they're running out of time to get him back, which obviously makes sense. Garth's life is literally on the line, but Aphmau's concern for Garth's safety and wanting to bring him home is further deepened by her deepening romantic feelings for him. She is constantly thinking about his absence. After Emmeline and Kenmer's wedding, she thinks about the moment that she and Garth shared after Donna and Logan's wedding. Aphmau's feelings for Garth are so significant that her other love interests are very aware of them. Lawrence is very attuned to Aphmau and Garth's connection. Aaron gives Lilith the middle name Garnett to honor Garth and promises Aphmau that he will help her get Garth back. Lawrence makes the same promise, but with all the Shadow Knight stuff that he goes through the season, he kind of loses the plot. Aphmau's completely determined and desperate to reopen the portal to the Irene dimension and save Garth, so much so that she completely breaks down to Aaron about how much she misses Garth and fears losing him. Aphmau was willing to risk her life to reopen that portal and lashes out over her inability to do so. It's also revealed to us that Aphmau blames herself for Garth being trapped in the first place, lamenting to Aaron that if she had just kicked out Zane when she had the chance, Garth would still be here. This is the most emotionally fragile that we have seen Aphmau at this point in the story, besides when Levin, Malachi, and Zoe had been kidnapped, and it wasn't until she found the divine fragment that Aaron and Caitlin noted that Aphmau had her spark back, with her hope of getting Garth back being reignited. And of course, Aphmau was completely panicked when she realized that Aaron had taken the fragment from her. Aphmau and Garth's reunion is very emotional, the two sharing a tearful embrace. Of course, their reunion is complicated by Aaron's death, but Aaron's death is a pivotal turning point for Aphmau and Garth's relationship. More specifically, it's a catalyst for what I think is arguably the most important Aphmau and Garth scene in the entire series. Garth blames himself for all of the pain that Aphmau has experienced this season, betraying her for Zane out of jealousy, inadvertently causing her to miss Levin and Malachi's childhoods, and now with Aaron's death. He can't understand how Aphmau can face him and not hate him for everything. But instead of spitting in his face or rejecting him, Aphmau tells Garth that she doesn't hate him because that wouldn't help anyone, not even herself, not even to have someone to blame. She tells him that it's not his mistakes that define him, but what he chooses to do in those moments after everything has gone wrong. Aphmau admits that she's scared too, and also is likely full of regrets, of things she wished she had done differently, but that they have to pick themselves back up and move forward, that they have work to do. This is a critical scene for establishing the beginning of Aphmau and Garth's partnership as more than just Lord and Guard. While this scene is very powerful and important for Aphmau and Garth as characters and for their relationship, this wasn't the scene that I was referring to when I mentioned the most important Aphmau and Garth scene in the series. That scene is the one that I am about to discuss. It's about time that we talked about the second elephant in the room. Aphmau revealing her pregnancy to Garth is one of the most controversial moments of the series, and I didn't want to shy away from talking about this scene because while Jess has expressed regret with how Garth was written in this scene, I'm not going to discount it or pretend that it didn't happen just because it doesn't cast Garth in the best light. Upon rewatching this scene for the first time in years, I can confidently say that while this scene may not have been executed the best overall, I think that this is a crucial turning point for Aphmau and Garth's relationship. For the better. Now, hear me out. I don't think that Aphmau or Garth were completely in the right or completely in the wrong during this scene. Garth had no right to berate Aphmau so harshly, especially when he knew how much Erin's death had affected her and how much she had grieved him, and when she told him that she was afraid to tell him about her pregnancy in the first place. Just because Aphmau had developed feelings for Garth at this point, they were not together. Garth was not entitled to the details of Aphmau and Erin's relationship just because he was in love with Aphmau or as her guard or anything of that sort. I don't condone the sentiment that Aphmau owed Garth the details of her and Erin's relationship just because she and Garth had had their romantic moments. With all of that said, I do also feel like Garth was entitled to feeling upset to an extent. After all, I understand Aphmau not wanting to keep her pregnancy from Garth and wanting to be honest with him, but telling him immediately after learning that Ivy was planning to execute his mother was very poor planning on her part. Already, Garth was having to grapple with the possibility of losing his mother in such a violent way, and I can fully understand that his emotions were everywhere. And while Jess has since referred to the scene as Garth being written out of character, I'm still going to consider it within the context of his character. Again, I am firmly of the belief that Aphmau didn't owe Garth the details of her and Erin's relationship. Regardless of how you feel about Aphmau and Erin as a couple, as a ship, would it have been a nice thing to do? Sure. But Garth wasn't entitled to all of that information. Now, the way that I have interpreted Garth's reaction to this information, I think is less about Aphmau and Erin having an intimate relationship and him just being jealous. As I have already established, throughout the season, Garth makes a concerted effort to be more honest and direct with Aphmau about his feelings. He shows her all of his cards. And so I think what Garth is most upset about in this scene is that Aphmau wasn't completely honest with him. Again, I will say it as many times as I need to. Garth wasn't entitled to the intimate details of what happened between Aphmau and Erin. He himself even said to Lawrence that Aphmau didn't need to explain herself to them. However, I do feel like Aphmau should have at least told Garth at some point beforehand that she had developed feelings for someone else. She didn't need to name Erin or go into any kind of extreme detail, but just let him know where her feelings were at. To be more upfront about how she was feeling about him and everything. Not because he's one of her love interests, but because he's her friend. And I can understand how Garth would feel like, beyond wanting to know because he's in love with her, how as her friend, he would have wanted her to just let him know where she was at. Because while I don't fully agree with the notion that Aphmau led Garth on, I can't say that I fully disagree with it either. There's a world where Aphmau could have been more direct about her feelings to Garth. She could have said something like, hey, I've developed feelings for another person, and I have been exploring that connection before I decide who I ultimately want to be with. But just so you know, there's a possibility that I could choose this person instead of you in the end. I'm not going to say anything definite because I literally don't know for myself, but I know that our relationship has changed a lot recently, and I just want to be honest with you because I value our relationship. And then it would have been Garth's job to sort out his own feelings, whether or not he still wanted to pursue, like actively pursue Aphmau, even with knowing that another person besides Lawrence had her affections. Because I can see from Garth's perspective of how he would feel blindsided by this. While he was willing to give her space and time to sort out her feelings, the fact that as someone Aphmau values, she didn't at least say a little something, even a nugget of where her heart was at, knowing after like everything that kind of has happened with Garth so far, I can see why he would be hurt, and I can't say that I fully blame him for that. Because by not being more honest about her feelings, I really can't blame Garth for questioning if Aphmau was just telling him what he wanted to hear all those times when they were in the dream dimension to keep him around as a second or third choice. Because if I'm completely honest with myself, if I were in Garth's position, I think I would feel the same way, especially when Aphmau literally told him to not give up on his feelings for her. Granted, it was in the context of don't give up your feelings for me just because you think it'll make me happy, but even still, I feel like the point still stands. Now, what did I mean when I said that this scene changed Aphmau and Garth's relationship for the better? Throughout the season, Aphmau and Garth were able to start over to a degree. They were able to have these little pockets of time where they were able to just talk as two people, not a lord and her guard, but as friends. But before this scene, Garth still very much had Aphmau on a pedestal. He held her in such high regard because he loved her so much. And while, yes, you do tend to hold the people you love in high regard, the way that Garth was doing it up until this scene was unhealthy. I don't think that Garth saw himself and Aphmau as equals due to their statuses as Lord and Guard. I think that the most important thing that this scene accomplishes is that it makes Garth realize that Aphmau is not perfect. She has messy, complicated feelings and will inevitably do things that upset him or that he disagrees with, because even after seeing the illusion of Aphmau and Lawrence kissing in season 1, he still had Aphmau on this pedestal. This scene helps to ground him in reality, even if his anger towards Aphmau isn't completely justified. But the fact that Garth is able to reflect on himself and his feelings and ultimately reaffirm that because he loves Aphmau, he will stay by her side, help her raise her kid, and be there for her regardless of whether or not she ever returns his feelings in full or at all, shows me that this scene, no matter how uncomfortable or upsetting it may have been to watch, ultimately strengthened Aphmau and Garth's relationship. Now they're equals. Garth goes on to admit that he was mostly angry at himself and took it out on Aphmau when she told him about her pregnancy. I don't doubt that he felt that way, but I also think that this was meant to soften the blow of that scene in episode 98, which I get, but I don't want to lose the significance of what this scene accomplishes, because I really do think it's such a valuable scene for Aphmau and Garth's relationship. With the original Minecraft Diaries ending early into season 3, we never got a proper conclusion for the series, much less Aphmau and Garth's relationship, but from the bits that we do get, I think I can still draw some conclusions about this third act of Aphmau and Garth's relationship. Season 3 shows how much Aphmau and Garth's relationship has grown since seasons 1 and 2. In the 3 years between season 2 and season 3, there's a sense of comfort and security that has been established between them. Garth has essentially become Alina and Lilith's adoptive father, making them a family unit of sorts. And because no one thinks that it's weird for Aphmau and Garth to have taken a trip out to sea with just themselves and the girls at the start of the season, it's clear that Aphmau and Garth have been settled into this dynamic for a while, prior to the beginning of season 3. Aphmau has grown a lot since season 1. She's still the same kind-hearted, compassionate, and occasionally silly Aphmau that she has always been, but the years of experience under her belt really shine through in her leadership and her interactions with everyone in season 3, but especially with Gareth. And we also see a more mature and collected Gareth than we've seen throughout the entire series so far. From the beginning, Gareth has always been painted as more serious and mature when compared to characters like Dale or Brendan or even Lawrence, but I'd argue that it wasn't until the events of season 2 that Garth truly matured. And we see this with how Aphmau and Garth have come to really rely on each other. Garth is still her guard, as he has always been, but now they're able to speak to each other on equal footing. There's a confidence that Garth has when giving Aphmau advice and not being afraid to push back and make his opinions known. Not that Garth has ever been afraid to discuss serious matters with her before or question Aphmau before, but there was always a formality to his words before. Now he's still formal because that's just kind of a part of who he is, but it's clear that there's enough mutual respect between them that they're able to speak more openly than previous seasons. It's also because of this mutual respect that Garth is really not fazed about Aphmau being Irene, or at least anymore. Obviously, when it was first revealed, it was a lot for everyone to take in, but Garth outright tells Aphmau that Aphmau will always be Aphmau to him. That she's incredible because she's Aphmau, not because she's Irene, which she really appreciates and values. Throughout the entirety of the original Minecraft Diaries series, we get to see Aphmau and Garth throughout different stages of their relationship. All the beautiful and ugly and messy and complicated moments and feelings. They go through so much together, experiencing all kinds of joy and silliness, but also pain and heartbreak. But in the end, or at least where season 3 ends off, it's clear that they have grown together. They've become the people that they needed to be for themselves and for each other. So it is my firm belief that had Minecraft Diaries not been discontinued and had we gotten the full story and a proper ending, Aphmau and Garth would have ended up together. That even after everything they had been through together, they would have been able to reconcile with their past and move forward together, as alluded to in season 3. Unless the plan was to bring Aaron back from the dead. But this isn't about him. Let me have this. Alright, that's all I have for today's video. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I seriously had so much fun with making it, though I hope that nobody takes it too seriously. This was purely made for fun, to gush about one of my favorite ships of my childhood. I know, believe me, I witnessed it. I was there. I was there with how heated the shipping wars got back in the day, and they're honestly a huge reason with why we never got a proper conclusion to Minecraft Diaries in the first place. So do not start going into my comments to argue. I'm not gonna argue with you. I don't want to see you arguing with anybody else. I'm too old. I'm simply too fucking old to argue with anybody or to watch anybody argue about this shit. Like, I can't do it. So y'all need to behave yourselves because I'm watching you. Oh fuck, I just hit myself in the glasses. But I'm watching you. That's how serious I am. I'm watching y'all. Anyway, rewatching Minecraft Diaries was truly so special. I told Adam that it felt like I was coming home. Like, I literally rewatching, especially like early Minecraft Diaries, I was crying. Like, even though it was like not sad and it's like so like unserious and silly, those first like early like episodes of season 1 of Minecraft Diaries, I was so like emotional at every moment. I'm just like, my babies, I miss them so much. I forgot how much I missed them. It just brought back so many memories and so much joy. And listen, I know this shit's not perfect. I know it's flawed, but this series will always have such a special place in my heart for everything that it did for me with helping to build my YouTube community and find online friends and like whatnot, and just so it just being a story that I like latched onto so much as a kid. Like, it will just always be so special to me, and I just love it so much. And that's why I again, because I literally can't move on or let go of anything that I've ever hyperfixated on, I am returning to making Minecraft Diaries content. Speaking of which, the first episode of my Rewriting Minecraft Diaries series that I'm going to be starting will be out sometime next week. Not really sure yet when that episode's going to be out, but if you're excited for that, stay tuned. Once again, that's all I have for today's video. Thank you guys so much for watching. I upload Wednesdays, Fridays, and Saturdays, except when I don't, and I will see you guys in my next video. Bye, guys.